Well, hello there, and welcome to our online mentorship session. I'm so excited that you are here. We missed last Friday, so I believe that the anticipation for today is really high, and I'm just really grateful to God that we are all here today. It's about 21 minutes past the hour of 7 p.m. Nigerian time, of course, and I know that differs from various time zones for every one of us, our viewers who may be following and watching from other parts of the world. Once again, welcome you, and I believe it's going to be an amazing time. This program promises to be inspiring, educative, informative, life transforming, and to help you add to your knowledge block as far as your growth and personal development is concerned. Suitable for every one of us, especially those of us who are career people into business and entrepreneurship and into various spheres of life where we might be leaders. This is that program that will really cement your week and add to what you're doing, increase you and add to who you are. And I'm excited that we are all here. See that a lot of us are already tuned in right now. I want to welcome those of us that are tuned in already, and also those who will come on the broadcast as we proceed. So do well to hit the like button, as we always do. Please hit the like button so that we can be sure that we have all our viewers well represented or connected to this program. So you're watching me right now, please go ahead and like it, whether on Facebook Live or on YouTube. Hit the like button. If you're watching by YouTube and this is your first time on this broadcast, I'd like you to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can get notifications about many more programs that will come your way and really bless you. And if you're watching by Facebook, please do well to follow the page on Facebook, join our community and our social network on that platform, and get connected to what we are doing. Now, if you're done with that, I'd like you to meet me at the comment section and let's interact. You could start by letting me know where you're watching from, and all through the broadcast, let me know when a point strikes your heart or resonates with what's on your heart, and do well to type it, or do well to type your questions as we proceed on the broadcast. Remember that it's an interactive show, and that means that we are going to be engaging with one another from the very beginning till the very end of this broadcast. So I welcome every one of us again from around Nigeria, and those who may be streaming from other nations. You are welcome. 2 minutes and we are going to kickstart this show right away. Just 2 minutes for as many as should to come on, and please remember to hit the like button, whether you're watching on Facebook or you're watching on YouTube, and let's keep the comment section engaged. All right, thank you so much for staying tuned, and today is going to be really interesting and thought-provoking, or thought-provoking. I think that's how they say thought-provoking. So I'd like you to sit back and get prepared for the show today. See some of us who are already on. Some people are just used to typing what others type. So let's be sure we don't have ghost members on YouTube or on Facebook. So everybody should create their expression and let me know in the comment section. Maybe start by telling us where you're following from or where you're watching from. And also don't forget that while the broadcast is on, I'll be expecting your questions on the live chat session, the comment session. Okay, we'll be going through it again and again to see if we have questions either on the subject to be discussed, or maybe previous subjects discussed, or on anything at all that you will need clarity around. It's interactive, and it's a show and a program that is meant for you. Welcome, Samson Zumuchi, watching all the way from Nasarawa. I don't think I got that name correctly, but Samson, you're welcome, all the way from Nasarawa. That's Naomi Beatrice, whom I believe is watching from Jos, Plateau State. Greetings, Naomi. She says, greetings, Daddy. Godia Godwin, who is watching from Katsina. I'm waiting for as many to come on. I saw somebody, Beatrice Andrew. Good evening, Beatrice. Please let us know where you are watching from. That name looks new on this platform. Samson says, thank you, sir. Thank you, Samson. And what part of Nasarawa are you watching from? Akwanga, Kefi, Lafia, Doma, Wamba. What part are you watching from? Let us know. John from Maiduguri. There are several others who are watching from Maiduguri. So once again, you are welcome. And we are about to kickstart the show right now. Thank you, James says, good to be back again. And he has these big hands. Are those hands? Eh, those hands are big. Those are big like the hand of God. He has big hands. So good to be back. Again, good to be back, James. Really good to be back. I want to know what we all did last Friday when we couldn't broadcast. Of course, we had a program last Friday. So many of us who were in Maiduguri and some of us who are connected, I'm sure we streamed the program that was on. We had a youth conference. It was an amazing time. But it's so good to be back here again. Rahimat, so good to have you around. Very and always regular on this show. So we'll begin by praying, and then we'll get to the discussion today. So dear Lord, we thank you for everyone watching right now, Facebook, on YouTube, and many more that will be streaming this broadcast right now. And we trust that we all together will dig deep into your wisdom and glean on the wisdom that will give us an advantage in life. Help us to grow, and that you will impart every one of us with knowledge and understanding. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. The power of silence. That's what we are going to discuss today. And already when this subject of discussion went out, I had this feeling that a lot of people would have a lot of questions, and we really appreciate your questions on this platform. It's designed to be interactive. It's not a monologue. And so we'll do well to attend to every question as much as we have the time, and shift till the next episode some of the questions so we can attend to them if we run out of time on this broadcast. So, but I just felt that a lot of people will have a lot of questions about the subject of discussion for today. So make sure you keep your questions coming. And I know many of us will ask from different perspectives about life and experiences as well. And let's see how this will give us different views of the subject for discussion today. The power of silence. That's what we are going to talk about today. The power of silence. The power of silence. You know, the word silence means absence of sound or absence of noise. It also means to be still. It can also be a situation where you are not saying anything. Here are some of the words that are synonyms to the word silence. In other words, words that are nearest in meaning to the word silence. We have stillness. There's also another word for silence, or close relative of the word silence. We have speechlessness. Speechlessness. So you could be silent sometimes because, or when you are silent, sometimes you are speechless, or when you are not saying anything. Muteness. Muteness. Not saying anything at all. Voicelessness. That's another synonym of the word silence. Voicelessness, when you are without a voice, or when you can't be heard, when someone cannot be heard. Then there is the word inarticulateness. Inarticulateness. Now, this could mean that you may be saying something that is not articulated. You may be saying something but not in articulate speech. It's also another word for silence. Then there is reticence. There is reserve. When you say someone is reserved, he or she is more or less silent. All right, and so many other words that could substitute for the word silence. And you know, as I grow, and with my experience in life and with more people, I realized that there are fundamental seasons or moments in your life where you ought to be silent, and there are times where you have no choice to be silent. You have no choice but to be silent. How can we say that there is power in not saying anything, or not making any sound, or in staying mute? We live in a generation where knowledge has increased, and we also live in a generation where everybody is bothered or conscious about their self-esteem and their reputation. In fact, we live in a world today where, whether you like it or not, most people are bothered about other people's opinion about them. And so because of that, many a times when we get into arguments, or we get into situations that allow others to challenge you, or when you find that you are challenged, or your reputation, or people's opinion about you seem to waver, we have the tendency to always defend ourselves, to always explain ourselves. In fact, we are in a world where the greatest need, I believe, is the need for answers. I think we need more answers in our world today than we even need air to breathe. Everything around is a question looking for an answer. As a matter of fact, people earn a lot, or earn a living by simply proffering solutions or answers to some of the questions and challenges of life. However, in a world filled with knowledge, and where everybody wants to be heard and to be articulated, and that's the reason why we have the internet and social media and all of that. Everybody is looking for a voice. Everybody wants to be heard. It's important for us to know that there are times when you can truly be heard when you are silent. And so we want to explore the power and the advantage that comes when you are silent, especially when you are silent at the right time, when you know when to be silent and when to silence. Of course, we know that there is time for everything. There is a time to be born, and there's a time to die. There's a time to heal, and there's a time of wound or pain. And time controls all the different seasons varying around our lives and existence. It's also important for us to know that there are times to be silent. For instance, you know, If you've ever been to the house of someone or a family or an individual who is bereaved, sometimes if you perceive the grief that he or she or the people feel because of the great loss, you may really lack words of what to say to them. When someone is grieving because they lose a person, you really don't know what to tell them. It looks like anything you say would not make sense. That may be a time to just be quiet. Sometimes people want to feel your presence more than to hear you. There's a moment to be silent. There are times when you are silent, not because you don't know what to say, but because what to say will better be heard at a more opportune or more favorable time. Now, I want us to know that silence is not stupidity. Silence is not foolishness. Silence is not weakness. In fact, silence does not always mean you're guilty. Silence also doesn't mean that you give your affirmation. See, that's the problem. And I remember something happened about a week ago. I was supposed to give an instruction to one of our people for something to be done. So I told him, this is what I'm thinking we should do, but I had not made a decision yet. And there was a breach in communication. And much later, I found out that the person went ahead and did what I speculated I was going to do. I said, so I got talking with the person. I said, no, I just said this is what I'm thinking we should do. I had not made a decision yet. The person said, well, sir, since I couldn't hear from you and you had a 4-time mentioned this, I just decided this may be what we will do, because I was not left with any other option. You know, and most times we get there as human beings where we think that we don't have options. But if you know anything about this life, regardless of where you are, there will always be an option. You will always have an option to choose from. And I want you to know that we make our decisions and define our destinations. Okay, so silence does not necessarily mean affirmation. Just because you are quiet doesn't mean that you are affirming in support of what people say, or you are giving your vote into something. And it's something you need to make everybody around you clear about, that your silence does not always mean that you affirm what is going on. All right. So we're going to discuss quite a lot about the power of silence today. And I just really believe that this topic will really make sense to every one of us and inspire, add to what we already know, and increase each and every one of us. All right, let's start it this way. Why you must be silent. Why you must be silent. Let's start from there. Why is it necessary that you ought to be silent sometimes? This connects with your relationships with people, your career, your business, your enterprise that you are building. This is also relevant for you as a leader, the small group or the large number of people that you are leading. Why is it necessary that you should be silent? Right, I see many other people coming on. Judith from Katsina. That's great, Judith. So good to hear. So good to have you on. Why you must be silent? Let me give you a few points amongst many. Number one, you were created to speak, but not to make noise or speak always. It's one of the reasons why you must be silent. You were created to speak. Every human being has a mouth. And that mouth means we have the freedom of speech. We are expressive beings. And the most articulate way to express ourselves, our opinions, is by speech. So it's important to know you were created to speak. However, it is important to also know that you were not created to make noise or speak always. I think that when somebody speaks always, they may start making noise. Noise is not necessarily making sounds that are not needed. No. Every sound expresses something. But some other times, if you are saying what is not needed, you may just be making noise. If you are saying something that may be needed another time, or you are saying something that the people around you don't need, you may be making noise. And as such, you may not get the attention from people like you need to. So, why you must be silent? Number one, you were created to speak, but not to make noise or speak always. Number two, your speech defines you. Your speech defines you. And that's one of the reasons why you must be silent at some time, sometimes and at some point. Because your speech defines you. And because your speech defines you, you must be sure to be articulate. And that's why you need to be quiet, to listen to yourself from within, and to be sure that what you are going to say articulates what you mean. Your speech defines you. You remember the story of Peter in the Bible when he denied Jesus. One of those times when somebody accused him of being with Jesus, the person says, "For you are a Galilean, for your speech betrays you." Your speech defines you. Everything you say is what defines who you are. As a matter of fact, people have a stronger opinion about you when they hear something from you. You know a person most times by what they say about themselves. You can know about a person by what other people have said, but you know a person by what they say. When you get to meet someone and you hear them speak, you have a feel of their personality. So when you realize that your speech defines you, there are times when you have to be quiet, you have to be silent, so you can compose yourself and become more articulate when you speak. That's number two. Your speech defines you. Why you must be silent. Number three, why you must be silent. To prepare to speak again. To prepare to speak again. Even in songs, there are times in a song where vocal speech or the lyrics is shut down and maybe just the instrumentation may be playing. They call those moments in a song, in songwriting, they call those moments interlude. They call those moments interlude for people who are music or song composers. And those interludes get them ready to sing again. So one of the reasons why you must be silent at some point in life is to prepare to speak again. Number four, to allow others to speak and bring clarity. It's one of the reasons why you must be silent, to allow others to speak and bring clarity. I believe that sometimes an issue discussed can be fully understood when other views or opinions are brought into play. All right, you need some other people to be objective in their view about something. And there are times when you will need clarity about issues, and that level of clarity may only be able to come from someone else who speaks. And for you to listen to them, you have to be silent. Sometimes as a leader, you have to listen to the people you lead. And you may just get clarity about the idea that you are trying to sell to them. The fact that you are the one selling an idea or you are postulating something as a leader doesn't mean you fully understand everything. You need the people working with you to show you that they understand. Sometimes to show you other aspects of the idea that you may not see, and when other times to show you that they truly understand what you are saying. That's the reason why when you are done explaining something to people, you ask them, do you understand? Even though I know what we do as Africans, some people really are not very good in constructing their speech, and you find some people asking, do you understand, after every sentence, and that's inappropriate. You should ask that question when you are done explaining. And when they were done and they were silent, he decided to speak. And he told them, he said, I thought age would teach wisdom. But then there is a spirit in man, and the inspiration of the Almighty gives understanding. And then he began to bring clarity into everything that was happening. So sometimes you need others to speak and bring clarity, and you will need to be quiet. And listen, I've learned this as a leader. The higher you go, the higher you rise in influence and even in positional leadership. When you come to a point where a lot is expected of you and people hang on your every word, your almost every word, you learn to count your words. There are times when, even as the leader, you have to be quiet. In the boardroom, there are times when you need to allow other people speak from the technical understanding of their fields, and get to allow the people working with you to bring their opinion, and then you sit down to reason through everything that is said. Those are moments of silence. Why you must be silenced? Number what? 5. To become productive. To become productive. Do you know that work is done faster in silence? Now, many of you will relate with this, but in Africa, anytime we are having an occasion, we are very celebrating people. Celebrative. We're celebrative as Africans. We love to celebrate about everything, including someone's death, burial. It's also a moment to celebrate. And we love occasions and all of that. Now, I want you to picture this. When there is an occasion, it means there will be a lot of foods and edibles. So find a group of African women, keep them somewhere, to cook the foods and to be in charge of all that people will eat. Just go there. Believe me, the energy generated from their talk, I'm very sure if it is converted to heat, it can cook the food they are cooking. I think they do more of talking than cooking. And I don't know why African women like that communal kind of, I don't know what to call it, fellowship or what. But many of you who are listening now will bear me witness. You just gather women together in a place and say, oh, we are cooking for this occasion. That's the end. And from morning till night, you can't come there and that place is quiet. And I won't want to say anything for against that, because many of our viewers are women, so we don't get a backlash now. But you see, just drawing from that to this discussion, you are more productive when you are silent. Nobody walks talking consistently. In fact, when it's a time or a period of work, let the work itself speak, not the noise around. So most times when a man is silent, it may be because he's productive. And there are seasons in your life where you have to be silent to be able to produce, to work. Either because your mind is working or you are doing a whole lot. Personally, before now, I used to love communicating with people by speaking to them on phone. But as my activities and responsibilities increase, I realized that the time I will spend talking on phone can be converted to do many things. And so most of the time when I'm quiet, I would rather just communicate with people by sending them text messages, not because I cannot speak to them, but because I'm trying to convert that time to do something. Years before now, I used to think people who did that just didn't like people, but now I understand better. Sharon is laughing. Is she laughing about the women cooking food? Okay. Then we're going to put an emoji of women cooking there. All right. So you're silent to become productive, more productive in whatever you do. And just thinking about that tells me so much more. Okay, I'll talk about it in the next section of the discussion. All right. I think I need a pen to write this down. Number what now? 6. Checking to see if there are questions. Why you must be silent? To listen to other people's opinion. To listen to other people's opinion. Listen to other people's opinion. Number 7. Why you must be silent? To hear what others are saying about you. To hear what others are saying. You can't be talking and others are talking and you get to hear what they are saying. No. If you want to know what others are saying about you, be quiet. Be quiet doesn't just mean shut your lips. No. Be quiet also means when a story, a rumor, a tale is peddled about you. Now that's the thing with rumors. They are usually peddled in cycles. Every rumor goes in cycles. It will go round and come back to the object of discussion most times. And when the person being discussed speaks because of what has been said, they have created another cycle. They've made news to go around, especially nowadays of social media where people want to trend. Let me tell you, some people who sound controversial on the internet actually do that on purpose, because that's how it is. Rumors spread in cycles. Now, if you want to hear what other people are saying about you, be quiet. So when the rumor goes round and comes to you, somebody asks you, did you hear that this is what they said about you, this, when you are quiet, you have stopped the flow of news, because you didn't say anything that will become a raw material for other people to feed on. But if you say something, it goes round. So you keep giving people the impression that you want them to have about you when you talk. And sometimes you can really give a good impression by being quiet. So you listen to what other people are saying about you. Number what? Okay, I think we can stop here. To see if you are making sense. That's one reason why you must be quiet. If you ever want to know if you are making sense, before asking the people, be quiet and listen to what you are saying. For those of you who are people of faith, if you read your Bible, read the creation story. Why was creation segmented into days? And each day God will say something and it will happen. And the next day God would have simply said everything in one day and everything should happen. Most times the Bible will say, and God saw that it was good. Or better put, he knew that what he was saying makes sense with his intention. So even God wants to be sure he's making sense. Sometimes it's good for you to stop and listen to yourself, or listen to what you have been saying. If you're a motivational speaker, if you are a training facilitator, you are a consultant, a resource person, you're a leader, you are a social media influencer, there are times where you need to sit back and listen to what you say. Well, one of the points we gave is that your speech defines you. So when you listen to the antecedents of your speech, everything you've been saying, does it define your personality? Does it express your intention? All that has been said, does it give a reflection, a direct reflection of who you are? These are in fact, one of the ways to grow and perfect public speaking is to have brief pauses. If you are into public speaking, let's say you have about 45 minutes to speak, have brief pauses in between to listen to what you are saying, or sometimes step back as you talk to hear what you are saying. You want to be sure that you are making sense, because when you are not making sense, you are making noise. I would have given you more, but let's stop there. These are many reasons why you should be silent. Now, what happens when you are silent? I gave you the why, so I'm going to give you the what. What happens in silence? When you're silent, number one, you become very thoughtful. Your mind thinks at the speed of thought when you are silent. It's very difficult to think and speak at the same time. And very few people have been able to master thinking and speaking at the same time without making mistakes. That's the reason why some people are talking and they simply just forget, or they all of a sudden forget what they are saying. But when you are silent, you become thoughtful. So silence is always a season where you become more observative, meditative, intuitive. You become more creative in your thinking. Your mind is heavily engaged. Your mind is processing, analyzing, rationalizing the state of things as you think. And I hope you know that our environment and our lives are a reflection of our thoughts. So when you are silent, you become very thoughtful. Number two, your words are cultured. I think there was a session we did. I talked about culturing your words. It was a season when I think was in May or something. I talked about culturing your words. Taming the tongue. Yes, taming the tongue. And we borrowed the word culture from microbiology. All right? Microbiology is a field in science that studies the constituents or the makeup of smaller living organisms. Now, in microbiology, there is a method used to study microorganisms. It's called culture. So that organism is taken, whether a virus or a bacteria or anything, is taken and cultured in a medium. That medium is like a chemical environment that supports the living or existing of that organism. And we borrowed that word culture when we were talking about taming the tongue, to mean that when we say that in your silence your words are cultured, it means that your words are fine-tuned, your words are sharpened, your words are, you create the kind of words you want to say. You culture it so that it can represent exactly your intention and the personality that you want people to see of you. So in your silence, you culture your word so that when you speak again, you can continue to make sense and continue to express your intention as it ought to be. Okay, Constance is already here from Ghana. Quite a number of person. Who's this username? El Chazag. Who's that? El Chazag. I think is he from India? You're welcome. There's somebody with that username, El Chazag. Please let us know who you are and where you're watching from. Thank you so much. You said when you're silent, you become very thoughtful. That's true. And then put a smiley, a face thinking with star and moon. So the person's mind is in space. So thank you for joining us. Please let me know who you are and where you're following from. Your words are cultured in silence. Number 3, in silence there is wisdom. If you are a leader in any sphere of life and you occupy a position where people hang on your every word to get wisdom, of course, wisdom to bring about creative solution for progress and to tackle issues at hand. When you know that a lot depends on you to produce wisdom, then there are moments when you have to be quiet. In a boardroom meeting, there are times when the CEO needs to be quiet and allow other people to talk. Sometimes in some of those boardroom meetings, there may be soft arguments from director of this to director of that to maybe the chief operating officer is arguing with the chief financial officer about something that needs to be done, and chief financial officer is arguing about the cost and looking for a cheaper method of operation and this and that, and all of that argument. As a leader, listen, it is wisdom that in those moments you are quiet. Let's borrow from the life of one of the greatest leaders on earth, Jesus. There were times when his disciples argued and he was quiet. I'll give you an example. In Matthew chapter 20, remember Jesus had two of his disciples came to him and said, grant that in your kingdom, one of us should sit by your right and the other by your left. Jesus said, well, it's not for me to choose who will sit by my right and left, but if you are able to drink from the cup of suffering and be baptized by the baptism that I will be baptized with. And they said, yeah, we are able, anything to just get there. Jesus said, oh, you will really, drink from my suffering and then be baptized. I wish they knew what Jesus was saying. But he said, it doesn't guarantee you to sit there. Now, the Bible says the other 10 heard it and they were furious. And that brought a dispute on the way. And you find the same in Luke chapter 22. In those disputing moments, Jesus was always quiet. Why? Because every time he spoke, he was meant to bring clarity and vivid perspective to issues. In fact, his word as the master was supposed to end every argument and bring a seal on it. And listen to me, you don't have to wait to be in a position to generate this level of wisdom. There is wisdom in silence. There are times when you need to be quiet. You can't be misunderstood. So learn to be quiet. Learn to be quiet. Maybe your silence is when you will see the way out of that situation, or where you see the way forward in that thing. Sometimes your silence may go beyond a few minutes to a couple of days or to a few weeks or months over something. And for those of you who have a relationship with God, listen, there are times when God is silent. God doesn't speak always. There are times when he's silent. I'll give you one reason why. Very simple. As much as you want him to be talking every day and become your gist partner, God is king and his word is law. And when God says something, everyone, including himself, is bounded by his word. So when you are in that position like God, where everything you say becomes a law, you are careful to want to say the right thing. And you want to give enough words that can become laws that should be obeyed. What's the use of giving 100 laws when one is not obeyed? Somebody said the fewer the words, the weightier the words when they eventually come. Very true. Very true. And that's Dr. Kanadi. Hi, Dr. Kanadi. Thank you for joining us. Oh, and then there's Abigail John from View, Brunei State. And maybe you need to also flip and check on Facebook. Let's see if there are questions. Somebody's watching from Asokoro, Abuja. Jadwa Matthias, God bless you, sir. Okay, Rejoice from Yola. I don't know about people. Okay, are those questions? Okay, those are points. Let's go to YouTube. I thought I saw someone with a question on YouTube. At what point do you speak up when the liar wins sympathy just because they talk while you, the real victim, stay silent? Or more. All right, thank you, Rahim. I love your questions on this broadcast. Now, there are ways to handle this. Let's say it's this is a scenario of an argument or something, or a confrontation, and somebody's trying to play the emotional blackmail game. Now, listen, I like handling people who think they can convince others by playing emotions. You know, they try to claim the victim and try to make you the villain. Listen, emotion does not mean you're making sense yet. So when you see the person who's trying to use the emotional blackmail game to try to convince those around you, just be quiet. As they talk, you will see a lot of loose end in their statements. I can tell you why. Emotions are good, but emotions never support the functionality of reason. Most times when you are hyper emotional, your reasoning begins to operate at a hypo level. Most times. And you see, what wins an argument is fact. 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 Facts over sentiment. Truth over emotions. So just be quiet and listen to them. Especially when you have made a hard point that they are trying to defend themselves from. You may not even need to speak again. Because what you said has resonated with the hearts of the people. And they know the people you are talking to are intellectual beings. They will know. Or some other times, listen to them as they talk. While they are trying to sound emotional, you'll be able to pull out a lot of loose end. And if you're focused on winning the argument, not just because you want to claim to be over the other person, but to bring everybody to the point of reasoning, you can take from the things the person has said and bring well spelled out points. Of course, politely, but say the truth. Politely, but really say the truth. I think that will help, especially maybe in a corporate setting, maybe in an office or something. You know, some of these people who try to use emotional blackmail, and I get it, sometimes we should be empathetic towards people, but sometimes people hide around emotion to just cover their folly. And there are people who are so emotionally proud that they wouldn't want to attest to the fact that they are wrong. They may have sincere motives for why they did what they did, but you can be sincerely wrong. And those are moments where you have to listen and be corrected. But sometimes people can be so proud not to learn. And so these are ways by which you can teach people like that. And some other times, you can just be quiet. They may not, in their emotions, they may be so caught up in it, and you may not really make sense to them. Not because you are not making sense, but because they are so boxed up in their emotions and they wouldn't want to accept what you are saying. And so those moments you can be quiet. There's wisdom in silence. Number what now? 4. In silence you cannot be misquoted or misunderstood. You cannot be misquoted or misunderstood when you are silenced. When you're silent, you cannot be misquoted. Nobody will say you said this and you didn't say that. And you cannot be misunderstood because you didn't say anything. Nobody can misunderstand silence. But every articulated speech can be misunderstood. Samuel says, yes, sir. Samuel Issa Barawa said, oh yeah, that's on Facebook. And Nubwa says, slow to speak and quick to listen. People are so proud to learn nowadays. That's true. Go to YouTube. Somebody made a point, said, okay, when silent, you speak more reasonable. That's true. So you cannot be misquoted and misunderstood. Number 5, in silence, your speech and opinion is heavily anticipated. Your speech and opinion is heavily anticipated. Heavily anticipated. If you have been quiet for a while, especially in a conversation, people will want to hear what you have to say. In fact, one of the ways to even attract attention sometimes is to be quiet, to be silent. We notice that she has not said anything all through this conversation. Now, the problem with some people is in all that moment of silence, they were not observative. They were not thinking. They were not thoughtful. And then they will open their mouth after being given the attention, and all that pours forth is just polished foolishness. So you have to be very observant. Some people keep quiet, not really because they are wise. It's not everybody you see that is silent. Some people is maybe low self-esteem. Some people just feel that they are to be seen and not heard. And, all kinds of cultural and traditional context within which people grow up. But you see, one of the things this program is targeted at is transformation, especially mental transformation, that you are able to break free from sociological and cultural and traditional limitations to a level of mental transformation that is accepted anywhere. A level of enlightenment where when you speak or by your actions, people are not able to trace you to any ethnicity or culture. That's what we do here. So, your speech is heavily anticipated when you're silent. Eventually, when you speak, your words will be taken very seriously because you've been quiet in a way that has attracted attention. There are times when you can make people hunger for what you have to say by being quiet. Even as a pastor, even as a minister, there are times when you need to step off the stage. And then after a while, because people have been used to the wisdom coming from you, they'll begin to look for you. And then you become highly sought after. See, if you want your words to be weightier, like one of our own mentioned in her comment online, you need to learn to be silent at the right time and learn to speak when you ought to speak. Now, also understand that we are not saying that articulated speech is wrong. No, we're just trying to get the advantage from knowing when you ought to be silent. Number what now? 6, you prepare to speak in silence. You prepare to speak. Not that you're just quiet and then say, do you have anything to say? I remember the story I was even telling somebody today of that story of the proverbial chicken. So it was said in that story that human beings were always killing animals during Christmas seasons. And the animals became worried. So they decided to have a meeting to confer, to know what to do about it. Maybe to send a high delegation to the human beings to plead with them to reduce the killings. And on their way to the meeting, they saw the chicken scratching the ground, looking for food. They told him, we are going for a meeting, and this meeting will decide what our fate will be before the humans. Chicken didn't answer them. So after much pressure, the chicken said, well, whatever you say, I'll support. And then when they went for the meeting, after all deliberations, they decided that they were going to sacrifice one particular animal that the human beings should be killing as the sacrifice, so that every other animal will be spared. And somebody in that meeting suggested the chicken. And they said, why? He said he didn't give any opinion. Neither is he here to say anything for himself. Even when he had something to say, what did he say? Whatever you say. There are people like that in a conversation, especially in a board meeting, maybe a business meeting, in a company or something. Everybody is trying to make, potent contribution. And there's some people who are so quiet, and you feel that when it's time for them to talk, they will open their mouth and wisdom will pour forth. But sometimes it was good they just remained quiet. So you are in your silence, you prepare to speak. Prepare to speak. When you have critics around you, I think there are some times when you may need to speak in the face of criticisms or rumor, so that those who believe in you may have a better impression about you and a clearer understanding about the issue on ground. And to those people, you owe your speech. So prepare to speak in the face of criticism, in the face of rumor. In your silence, people should not think you will let it slide. No. Prepare a way to answer. Who said that in scripture? He said, what I will answer. The speech I will give and what I will answer. I think it was Habakkuk. I will stand on my watch and set me on my tower. Watch to see what he will say to me and what I will answer when I am. Right? Habakkuk 2 verse 1 to 2 or so. I think I need to read that. Prepare to speak in your silence. Some people are always used to the blame game. Start learning how to take responsibility. When something didn't work or started late because of you, learn to tell people, I was responsible. Yes. I will stand my watch and set myself on the rampart and watch to see what he will say to me and what I will answer when I'm corrected. So you prepare to speak. And sometimes you may not have to say so much to make sense. Number what now? 7. Maybe 2 more and then we'll shut down. In silence, you build and cultivate. 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 When God wanted to stop the Tower of Babel, what did he do? Made everybody started talking, but they were talking in a way that the other person won't understand what this person was saying, and the work stopped. And I said it at the beginning of this discussion that you become more productive in your silence. So in silence, you build and cultivate. You build yourself. You build your mind. Increase in learning. You build your business. You build your enterprise. You grow your ministry in silence. Sometimes just allow your results to speak. Your results are more vocal than 1,000 words spoken by 1,000 tongues. Build and cultivate in your silence. Very important. You can even speak through your work. Very simple. Instead of preparing what to say to people, simply just speak by your work. Build and cultivate in your silence. In fact, one of the best ways to answer critics is by actions. Let them do the talking, you do the walking. After a while, your results will become so vocal that they will be ashamed of speaking. Because people will now notice them as commentators. That's the reason why people who are quiet in the face of criticism and focus on walking, focus on building and cultivate, most times they outlast those who have been talking. I mean, look at the Nigerian social media space. There were people who were talking before now. criticizing and condemning other people, are they talking again? They are quiet, waiting for when next they will have something to say. And what they are going to get to say from those other people are those people's results, those people's prospects. May I never live at a point in my life where I become less productive and then I take up a new job as a commentator on other people's success. No. Build and cultivate in your silence. And let's hit the last point for today. And this is something, I think this is the big bang. Sharon said your results are more vocal than 1,000 words. Indeed. In fact, you don't even need to walk in a way that you want to use your result to reply them. No, just concentrate on what you are doing and your work will speak for itself. You don't even need to do that because you want to reply them. No, concentrate on what you are doing. All right? This last point is the big bang. What happens in your silence? You are unpredictable. You are unpredictable in your silence. And I tell you, that's the dominion of silence. It makes you unpredictable. You're not saying anything, so they can't say you said something. They can't misquote you. They can't misunderstand you. They can't take your words out of context. Try this. Next time you find a dead body, start talking to the dead body. Just continue talking. You know, the dead body doesn't smile, doesn't turn, doesn't do anything. It's just there. After a while, you will have to advise yourself. It's either I continue talking and then become the 21st century expression of who a fool is, or I keep quiet. And you see, when you are silent, even when you have what to say, that you choose to become silent doesn't mean you are foolish. No. It's dominion. You know, it's often said those days that small dogs bark, big dogs bite. It's true. The real boss doesn't talk. They are calculated on the next action. You want to be unpredictable to people, even to the devil. The last I checked, the reason why the devil can attack many people is because of what they said. Yeah. If Joseph had shut his mouth about his dreams, maybe God would have looked for another route to fulfilling those dreams without the interruption of his brothers. Silence. You know, one of the things that pained the Pharisees in the days of Jesus, one of the things that pained them about Jesus was that there were times when they needed him to talk so that they will find something to use against him and he will be quiet. And the Bible always says it. They were looking for what he would say so they will use against him. He's just quiet. Bam. He don't say anything. Even when he stood before Pilate, do you know I have the power to set you free? That was only when he replies, hey, you don't have any power except what is given to you. Silence. Dominion is in silence because it makes you unpredictable. And listen, if you want to rule and if you want to dominate in the affairs of life, you must be sure that nobody knows your next move. After a great accomplishment, a great program, something big that has happened for your brand, your company and everything, after all that celebration and charade, your opponents will be trying to know what's your next move. Just keep quiet. Allow that past success to keep speaking while you are thinking on how to hit them. That's what happens amongst brands. All right? They become unpredictable. Okay. Matt is here again with another question. So I also believe that constantly explaining yourself can be a sign of low self-esteem. I think so too. There are people you don't know. You need to know who you owe explanation to. You need to know who is worthy of your speech in life. Listen, your words define you. Your words export your personality. You sell yourself, you market yourself by your words. You distinguish your brand by your words. You need to know that your words are your first asset. The first most valuable asset of your life are your words. All your possibilities are trapped in your words. All your future prospects are trapped in your words. So when you speak, you need to be sure you are talking to the right people. People who desire to listen and to support what you do. And when you find out that you're standing before naysayers and critics and all of that, play them the dominion card of silence. You see, life has a way of advising people who are always talking about others who are quiet. Yeah. Sometimes people talk too much, explain themselves because of when you know who you are, there is a confidence you live when you have the right and the correct image of your personality. There is a confidence and a peace that you live with every day. You know you don't have to prove a point to anybody, because you are original, you are you, and your actions prove the same. So you don't have to always keep talking. There are times to talk and explain, and you will know as you study in silence when that platform is given to you. Other than that, please spare your words. They are one of your most valuable assets. Your tomorrow is trapped in your words. Everything that will manifest in your life is trapped in what you say. So make them count by culturing them in silence and learning to speak them at the appropriate time. James says the dominion card of silence. You always hit the nail with your words, Apostle. They carry weight and touch lives. That's because I was quiet before coming here to speak. Thank you. That's a great comment. Silence. Proverbs 17:27 and 28 says, he that has knowledge spares his words, and a man of understanding is of a calm spirit. It says even a fool, when he is silent, is thought to be wise. There are times to be quiet. There are seasons to stay inside and build and cultivate. There are seasons where you need to be misunderstood, because when people initially misunderstand you and you remain quiet in that season, you have made, or that has contributed as a raw material to the unpredictability of your success. Silence in the face of criticism is a raw material for an unpredictable and unlimited success. I noticed that the richest people in the world are not social media influencers. They are not loud on social media. So stop spreading news when you can make news. All right, I think that's enough for today. It's been an amazing time. Thank you for the time, and thank you for your great comments, which are a derivative of what we've been discussing. Great comments. Let action do the talking. That's wonderful, man. This is Christiana. Saying silence, you confuse the enemy. Very true. You are unpredictable in silence. You are. In fact, you frustrate the enemy when you are silent. See, that's why as Christians and in spirituality, God gives us another prayer language that the devil doesn't understand. Because when you speak those prayer languages, you are mustering and sending weapons from the arsenal of God to hit the enemy. And so imagine when you are hit with what you don't know. You lose the battle because you're already confused. That's the reason why. Setili says, thank you, Apostle, for these great guiding words of wisdom. All right. Thank you so much. I'd like you to go back and watch this broadcast again. I believe it will truly bless you. It's been an amazing time with us again. Thank you. And I'm so glad we are back on online mentorship session. And looking forward to seeing you again, perhaps next Friday. Have a lovely evening. Have an amazing weekend. And remember, there is power in silence. Because when you are silent, you are unpredictable. And that's where true dominion lies. If I were you, I'll watch this broadcast again and again and just peruse on the words that are spoken. God bless you. Have an amazing weekend and a beautiful and productive week ahead. Bye for now.